So I get a lot of questions about how I turn over beds, and so I thought I'd show you an example. This one, it's currently a pepper bed. It's going to be a spinach bed. As a pepper bed in summer under a low tunnel, it had a good thick mulch of strulch. I've been very pleased with strulch this year. It's fairly expensive, but it is very effective against slugs and weeds, and it's a good mulch. In fact, I hardly had any weeds at all in that bed, and that was a stark contrast to the beds that didn't have strulch on them. Anyway, one of the nice things about strulch is it's really easy to just rake up, put in a bag and save for next year. And so that's what I've done now, and so I'm going to get on and show you the bed prep. So the strulch is all gone, and I do recommend a rubber rake for this job. Absolutely perfect and super easy. You know, it literally took 2 or 3 minutes to remove that strulch. Obviously there's a little bit left there. I'm now going to put down some blood, fish and bone on this bed. It doesn't really matter too much what you put down for spinach, as long as it's got a reasonable nitrogen content. I just happen to like a blood, fish and bone. It's easy to apply. It's got a very wide range of different types of nutrients in it, and it's just my favourite. So hopefully you can see the green in my blood, fish and bone mix. That's because I add to mine seaweed meal just to give it an extra nutrient boost. Spinach is already pretty good, but you know, it's only as good as the nutrients in the soil, and I'm growing on sand, so there's not very many nutrients in the soil. So I just cut all the peppers off at the roots, and there's still quite a few peppers on these plants, but basically they're all down here, and I'm just going to leave them down here to ripen off a little bit. We've got loads of peppers, and so anybody can come and collect green peppers that wants them from our friends and family. And so the root mass is all still in the soil, and it gets slightly in the way of planting the spinach, so I am now going to put down 1 inch of compost, and basically I'll be planting into that. I don't sieve my compost, so it's full of little bits of wood and stuff like that. I just remove it as I'm spreading it out, and I like to spread it out by hand. It just gives me a good feel for the quality of the compost, keeps me in touch with the soil. And yeah, I've already given the bed 2 watering cans, and once I've got the compost down I'll give it another watering can, and I'll let that settle for a day, and then I'll plant in it tomorrow. So it's tomorrow, and I'm just about to plant the spinach and the salad onions. The spinach is Giant Winter, and it's not very old. I'll put the date up in a second. And yeah, it's pretty fast growing spinach at this time of year. And the salad onions are Guardsmen, and they're not so old either, but they're pretty well on. So I'm hoping, and you know, all these timings are a bit dodgy based on, you know, weather conditions and all that sort of thing. It's a bit difficult to predict, but I'm hoping that I'll get a really big harvest of spinach all the way through autumn. And we'll only have 1.5 beds of spinach in autumn, so you know, we'll be really harvesting it hard. And because we're harvesting it hard and basically taking all the big leaves off every single week, the salad onions will hopefully have enough space to grow on. And by the time this spinach bed is kind of exhausted, which for a bed that's harvested that hard could well be early winter time, the salad onions will also be ready for harvest. So we'll harvest all those, and then that bed will be clear and ready for replanting with something else. And sometimes I'll replant, for example, with lettuce in kind of, you know, late November, early December sort of time, and then that will get harvested sort of March, April and May sort of times. So maybe that will be what will happen, maybe not. I'm always very flexible in terms of these sorts of dates, because who knows exactly how things will pan out. And you know, you might get a disease problem, or we might get really bad weather or anything like that. So yeah, very flexible. Anyway, the way I plant is I just dib little holes with an old fork handle. It's really quick and easy. And what I do is I first dib the holes for the primary crop. So in this case, the primary crop is spinach. So I'm dibbing in all those holes. And once those are dibbed, I'm just dropping the modules into the holes, and I don't firm them in at this stage. I'm just dropping them in the holes so they're in the right place, and then I'll come back to the bed once everything's dropped in the holes and gently kind of firm them in, generally with 2 fingers, just firming them in around the roots, around the stem, and settling them well into the ground. I kind of think of it a bit like pressing a press stud in, if you know that kind of feeling. So that's the spinach, and really high density. As I said, I put 30 plants in per square metre. That is a higher density than I'll use for the plants that I'm going to be harvesting over winter, because I want them to have more space, I want them to have more light. But for things harvested in autumn, I'm not so worried about that. So then we come on to the salad onions. As I said, those are guardsmen, and sometimes germination is just too good. So I put about 9 seeds roughly, and I just take a pinch basically and drop them in. And sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 11. You know, I don't really worry too much about it. It's just a pinch. And again, that doesn't matter so much for something that's going to be harvested in autumn. Ideally, I would like germination to be about 6 seeds germinating out of the 9. This time, this tray, it looks like every single seed that I dropped in germinated, so they're a bit over germinated. So there's a few too many seedlings in each module. That means they won't grow to maturity quite as quickly as I would like them to, which is a bit of a downside. So I might end up harvesting these as pretty small salad onions. They taste just as good, but a little bit more fiddly to clean up. But anyway, basically doing the same sort of thing. After I've got all the spinach in, then I did the holes for the salad onions in between the spinach, of course, and again just drop them in, and then after dropping them all in, I'll come back and then firm them in. So I just find that's the most efficient way of doing it, and it's just less kind of bending down. What I'm trying to do, as well as be efficient, is save my back. You know, gardening can be a bit rough on the back of the knees, so if you can do most of the things standing up and then very quickly kind of do things bending down all in one go, it's a bit easier on the back. So I think that is pretty much it, apart from how am I going to cover these things? Well, at this time of year, of course, they don't really need any cover at all, but I've got nowhere to put the low tunnel, so I'll just have the low tunnel on there and open. I don't really want that low tunnel over them. In the longer term though, because spinach and salad onions, they don't need a low tunnel. They're happier, I think, in a cold frame. And I want the low tunnel for something that's going to appreciate it, like, say, winter lettuce. So I will be taking the cold frame top that is currently over this salad bed, and I'll move that over the spinach bed. And then I'll take the low tunnel that's on the spinach bed right now, and I'll move that over the baby kale and salad onion bed. And then I'll move the, can you follow this? Then I'll move the netted frame that's currently over the kale bed over the, come on, right, over the beetroot bed that'll be harvested in October and replanted with spring cabbages. So spring cabbages don't need any cover at all, apart from a net, just to stop the pigeons eating them. And they do benefit actually a little bit just from the reduction in the amount of wind that hits them through that net. So that is it. All done. So if you want to know more about growing spinach or salad onions, then check out my ebook. There's a chapter in the individual growing guides section of that book on both of those things. So salad onions, bunching onions, whatever you want to call them, is one of my favourite crops. So there's a really nice chapter on that. And as I say, spinach is also one of my favourite crops. So there's a chapter on that. In the spinach chapter, you'll also find reference to other things that you can grow other than true spinach, because true spinach doesn't grow very well all year round, but there are some great alternatives that you can grow instead. So I hope you like this quick video. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.